Hey there, welcome back. Once again, it's time for the Golden Age of DC Comics, 365 days, where I take this beloved hardcover coffee table book given to me by one of my best friends about 2 decades ago. It has been surfing my coffee tables ever since, and it's a great source of comic book conversation. I'm trying to recreate the kind of conversations that we had in the comic book shops and having them here today, now, with you. So thank you so much for tuning in. I like to start off the show with an appreciation for the book. This is a 2004 Abrams publication. It's curated and written by Geoff Spear, Chip Kidd, and Les Daniels. There is a link in the description to the Amazon page where you can get your own. It makes a great gift, and I believe it goes for about between $12 and $25 between used and brand new. So get yourself a copy and play along at home. Part of the mission of my show is to remind you that escapism is such an important thing in your life, and that you need it to keep your imagination flexed and strong. And today we have there's such a modern insistence on activism being in everything. Remember, activism is important. We need it. But does it have to be in all of our fictions? Does everything have to be so preachy, teachy, screechy, and needy? Because that's how it comes off. Just needy people trying to assert themselves on you through our fictions, when our fictions should be escapism, where you can leave behind this earth's problems, your problems, for just a couple of minutes in a day. Be spirited away to a different place where you can solve problems with superpowers, or battle space aliens and robots, or evil orcs, or befriend elves with magic, or escape into some art, or some music, or some cinema. And so, I do believe activism's important, but it doesn't have to be everywhere, and it especially doesn't have to be in our sports or in our fictions all the time. It's quite boring, to be honest. And but we're going to be talking about the Golden Age of DC Comics. That runs between 1938 with the premiere of Action Comics #1, the first appearance of Superman. And that goes until 1955. The Silver Age begins in 1956 and runs until 1970. The Bronze Age, I'm a Bronze Age baby, runs between 1970 and 1985. And the Copper Age begins in 1985. And let's talk about the ages of comics. Leave a comment in the comments section. And we're going to be talking about comic books every day for the rest of the year. So if you love comics as much as I do, you've tuned into the right place at the right time. The intended purpose of this book, we're going to crack it open, go to today's date. We're going to look at some comic book art. We're going to read the blurb, and then we're going to talk about comic books. Awesome. Let's get to it. Haha, one of my favorites. The Big Red Cheese. It is Captain Marvel, a.k.a. Shazam. And we're going to get into that. That's today's topic, is the legal trademarks and disputes over this old mighty character. All right, let's get to it. This is pencils by C.C. Beck, inks by Pete Costanza, from Captain Marvel Adventures number 89, October of 1948. What's troubling Captain Marvel? In this story, Captain Marvel's melancholia, he's depressed because he suspects that a man he helped convict of murder may be innocent. Everything works out in the end, but the character affectionately known as the Big Red Cheese has other problems. Created in 1940 for Fawcett Publications by writer Bill Parker and artist C.C. Beck, this superhero in his heyday sold more issues than any of his ilk. DC, however, saw too many similarities to Superman and launched a lawsuit. Judgments and appeals went back and forth for years until Fawcett finally threw in the towel in 1953. Yet even here, there was a happy ending for his fans. In 1973, DC revived the superhero under the title Shazam, and he's been back in business ever since. And let's look at this great art. I love the font. I love that font that they, this is like the Captain Marvel font. I don't know any other name for it. I tried looking that up to see if there's any kind of, font name for this. But I love it. Look at the newsboys there. Look at his hat. I got one of those. Golly, Captain Marvel ought to be the happiest man on earth. I'll say. Who wouldn't give anything to be in his shoes? And what's gloom? I know. I've been there, felt that, done that. But I've got a website up I'm going to read from. We're going to talk about real quick the copyright, trademark, and tale of Captain Marvel. Because if we say Captain Marvel, is your mind going to Brie Larson? It should, can. It deserves it. So let's get to it. This is from a May 29th, 2019 article by Jonathan Bailey from Plagiarism Today. Back in March of 2019, both Shazam and Captain Marvel were in the theaters at the same time. Remember, two separate universes. Shazam from the DC universe, Captain Marvel is in the mighty Marvel MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, who was portrayed by Brie Larson, playing Carol Danvers. However, the two films and their titular characters have shared much more than theater space. They have a long, winding history of lawsuits, trademark, and copyright issues. Most impressive is that all this history goes back 80 years. It involves multiple companies and has drastically changed the history of comic books and superheroes. However, it's also a story that's widely misunderstood as being framed as another battle between DC and Marvel, even though the two never really came into direct conflict. The truth is ultimately a bit more complicated, but no less interesting, as it's a tale of copyright and trademark that unfolded over a lifetime. Captain Marvel was created in 1939 by Fawcett Comics as part of Whiz Comics, and DC filed a lawsuit in 1941. And by 1948, there was a ruling made that that DC was correct, that Fawcett basically ripped off Superman to make Captain Marvel. And by 1951, there was an appeal, and but that didn't come to be. So by 1956, Fawcett Comics folded up shop. By the late 60s, I think in the early 70s, what used to be Fawcett sold its licenses to DC Comics, such as Captain Marvel, Shazam. And in 1991, DC had finally just bought all the Fawcett material outright. And so Captain Marvel Shazam versus Shazam. Not much happened for the better part of 2 decades, with the original Captain Marvel no longer in publication. The name and character just stopped being used. So much so that in May of 1968, Marvel Comics, which used to be Atlas and before that Timely Comics, decided to use the name for itself by introducing a new comic book series entitled Captain Marvel, featuring the current Captain Marvel as the protagonist. This would be the Kree warrior Mar-Vell, who was a man at the time, and he had this cosmic power, and he was an alien visitor that came to Earth, and he met Carol Danvers, who later became the modern-day Captain Marvel. Marvel Comics had already filed a trademark on Captain Marvel in October 1967. That's registration number 0892487. However, this posed a pretty significant problem for DC comic books, who in 1972 obtained the rights to use Fawcett's old characters, including Captain Marvel. So when they first published their first Shazam comic, it says the original Captain Marvel. The character was used sparingly due to issues with the original license agreement, but in 1991, DC Comics purchased all the rights directly and began using the character more aggressively, although they could not advertise him under his actual name. The resolution finally began in 2011 in the New 52 initiative, when Captain Marvel finally got a name change to Shazam. Now with the name Shazam, he's still largely the same character he was in 1939, but doesn't cause any potential trademark issues. With all that said and done, Shazam may have done one of the greatest superhero feats of all time. He started life as a copyright infringement of Superman, only to have his rights acquired by Superman's publisher and to have his name be a trademark infringement of a superhero created nearly 40 years after him, and then rebranded himself as Shazam, and would later to go on have a movie released as the same time as Captain Marvel. It's a pretty impressive story, and that's from Plagiarism Today, written by Jonathan Bailey in May of 2019. Yeah, I mean, Captain Marvel, Shazam, I grew up with the live-action TV show. There was a cartoon in the early 80s, and also a big crush on Mary Marvel, his kid sister. You know, actually his older sister. And I loved Captain Marvel Jr., Freddie Freeman's blue sidekick outfit. I've loved the original Captain Marvel all my life. And I love the dual role of the little kid who's got a magic word and becomes the big, strong Superman. The word Shazam. That was even in the old Andy Griffith show to the Gomer Pyle show. And Gomer Pyle, the protagonist of the sitcom, one of his lines was Shazam, and as in like an exclamation. And but what do you think? Thank you so very much for tuning in. Leave a comment. Please like and subscribe. I would love to earn your subscription. We talk about comic books, and we're going to talk about comic books every day for the rest of the year. So please tune in tomorrow, 3 p.m. U.S. Eastern. We'll find out who we're talking about when we turn the page tomorrow. Thank you so very much. We make daily content here. We talk about spirituality. Hashtag lighten up. It's how a little enlightenment can help improve your daily life with spirituality. I make gratitude lists and Sunday sermons. I'm an ordained minister and amateur theologian. Let's get spiritual. I'm also a professional chef. I make delicious, nutritious, and beautiful food, and I share that with you in the What's Cooking playlist. I make soup, and it's beautiful soup. Apparently, it's wicked popular. And we talk about comic books. I also have a half-assed daily show, morning show, between about 4:50 a.m. and 5:30 a.m., where it's birdsong, any planets that are out in the sky if it's clear, and bunnies eating their breakfast. I love sharing this cute nature moments with you. And so thank you so much for tuning in. Like and subscribe, and we will see you tomorrow. Good luck, God bless, namaste, and see you in those funny pages. Thanks. Bye-bye.